Hey friends, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays. Wherever you fall into those, the best of it to you and yours. Welcome to the Gardener's Workshop live from the farm. My name is Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I am just really happy that you're here with me. And we're going to start out here in the buildings, but we're going to finish up out in the Cool Flower Garden, just having a little looky around at what's happening. And we had our first, not really the first, but we had a kind of frosty night, and I'm just really excited about Cool Flowers. And today's topic, what I really want to talk, and I'm going to show you something, is my theme for the week has kind of been why go local? Why buy local flowers? Why buy local food? And when I say local, I mean produced. And then the third part of that group is supporting local businesses. And I just have a really sweet story to tell you, and then I'm going to show you one of the products of this new relationship that I've rekindled with a local business here. But first, I just wanted to highlight, I looked up online really quickly, like, why should we buy local? You know, like, what are some facts, some ideas, some thoughts, some food for thought about why you might want to consider buying local? Because I don't know if you're like me, I am too busy. That's what I say to myself. And Tucker's, running around here being a Hoover vacuum, cleaning the floor and eating something he shouldn't. I'm really busy. It's really hard for me to resist that buy now button. You know what I mean? When you're online and it's so easy to get it and it can be here tomorrow. And I totally get all that. But if each one of us did just a little bit, I am just hoping that we can start the snowball effect. And the snowball effect is good for all of us, y'all. Because much of my audiences are small business owners, right? We're flower farmers, we're flower growers, or we're designers, or we're florist shops. And we are all small businesses. And so by leading by example, when we embrace local businesses and toot the horn that we're doing it and talk a little bit about them and kind of do what I'm going to do today. But before I do that, I just want to read you. I quickly wrote down this. My day has not gone as I thought, and I meant to print this out and didn't have a moment. I saw on shoplocalraleigh.org. I'm in Virginia. That would be Raleigh, North Carolina. They just had this top 10 list. The very number one was you strengthen your local economy. Who doesn't need that? Right? We all want our neighbors to work. We want our local economy to boom. And then the other thing that is really a significant thing for flower farmers is we really sing the song of how the climate impact when flowers are being shipped from South America, up to Michigan or wherever. The footprint of that is tremendous. Buying local doesn't have that problem. I can't even read my own handwriting, y'all. So the third thing is supporting your local community. There is just so much to that for things like employing local people. That is a really big one for me. I employ 13 people in the Gardener's Workshop business. A few of them are virtual. That is at the Warehouse Fulfillment Center and here at the farm and beyond. And, when people shop with us, it is impacting locals on a different level. And so the job part of shopping for local folks is really, really significant. And something that they put, but I don't want to say that you don't get it. They said better service. That is true, but I'm not saying that non-locally owned businesses sometimes also have good service. So I have a hard time saying that that's exclusive to local. But I do know, in the little story I'm going to tell you, a big part of why I felt so confident about doing what I did was because I had a connection. I felt really good about handing over something that was precious to me to somebody to do a job that I was leaving it there, that I felt really good about that. You invest in your community when you shop local. I mean, it really does trickle down, because another part of that is your sales tax that goes into your community, a percentage of it. And all of that really, really helps. So taxes is another part of this equation. And y'all, the last one that I'm going to say is it encourages local prosperity. I can't tell you how encouraging it is when I talk to another business owner, especially if they're local, meaning that I can really connect with them on a different level, how much it inspires me to hear their success, what they've done, who they used. Oh, well, what service did you use in town for that particular idea or item? It is so very, very good for prosperity. So the little story I wanted to share, and I did this earlier on Instagram earlier this week with a different piece, but I shared that I was rummaging through drawers looking for something and under a bed, and I came across a couple of real family gems. I mean, things that just make your heart go pitter-patter. And it just really touched, and short of going into a long story about it, it just really resonated with me that here were these items that really make my heart sing, and Steve's. Why do we have them hidden away in drawers and underneath beds and not out where we can enjoy them? Well, first off, primarily was to protect them. A couple of them are really old, and I didn't want anything to happen to them. But man, the way we feel when we were looking at them and talking about them was just so really, really good. And the little baby side rabbit hole I'm going to go down is what I shared. The other piece of this that really came to pass was that during the same time, or I guess in the last month, I don't watch much TV. And when I do watch it, I don't watch blood, guts, and violence and things that don't make me feel warm and fuzzy. I mean, who needs that, right? So one of the things that I watch is Home Garden TV. And because we're preparing to do a project here at our home, I tend to like to watch the Hometown Show. Is one of a couple that I really enjoy watching. Not only do I really appreciate what they stand for, they're revitalizing their small town. They work with a lot of family and locals, and all of their whole enchilada just really, really resonates with me. So I follow them on social media, which you may or may not do that, but I do like them because I totally enjoy their messages. Well, because I followed them on social media, I don't know if you watched that show, but Ben, who is the husband of Aaron, his brother shows up on the show from time to time and helps him in his workshop. Well, they did a program several weeks ago, probably a rerun. I don't know if it was in real time or not. Anyway, his brother, Jesse, and his wife, Lauren, were moving back to Laurel to join with them and to do stuff, to work and live there. Well, they did a house. And so because I follow Aaron and Ben on social media, when Jesse and Lauren bought a local business there in Laurel, Mississippi, their feed started showing up. Well, guess what they bought? They bought a frame shop. And the name of their Instagram handle is Napier's Frame Laurel. And so they're doing these really cute marketing things and showing what they're doing and what they're talking about. Well, when I found these two items that I found, well, actually I found four, but two of them, which were super special, when I found them, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Lisa, why don't you get these framed? And then I thought, Lisa, you know the local frame shop owner. I just haven't been there in a couple of years. So this these items led me to reconnect with a longtime family friend. Her name is Barb Hunt. We go to mutual churches. Our church and her church are like sister churches, if you whatever. They're in the same denomination. And so we've known them for a long time. Anyway, she bought the frame shop when she worked there for like 20 years. And then when he retired, she bought the shop. So I thought, I'm taking these items down to Barb. And so I did that. And I just can't tell you how heartwarming it was to talk to her, to hear about her challenges. You know, if you want to help another business out like I would help you out, is the name of her Facebook and Instagram handle is The Frame Shop and Gallery, NNVA. NN stands for Newport News, Virginia. Anyway, so she was saying that, you know, she's not quite so busy anymore. You know, this whole atmosphere is just kind of putting a slowdown to things. And I got really inspired over what she does. First off, she does amazing work. You just can't believe, I mean, she's done several jobs for me now since this all happened in the last few weeks. And I'm just over the top impressed, as well as I'm working on a little something else with her, which I'll hear about maybe after the new year. So I took 4 pieces down there. One I showed on Instagram, which was a Christmas card. I can't even hardly talk about it without getting emotional, that my dad made when he was 8 years old. I never thought of my dad as an arts and crafter. You can see that over on Instagram TV if you want to watch it. It was super sweet. And everybody wanted to look at it and hold it. And that's when I thought, I've got to get this thing framed and preserved and protected, right? So I did that. And then I've got something super special I'm doing for Stevie for Christmas. You're not going to see that till next week. But the other thing I took down there to her was one of the images that the photographer from my book, Vegetables Love Flowers, actually took the image, and then he sent it to me in just a mat. And it's been hanging around my house, just matted. No way to hang it or enjoy it since 2018. And so I took that down, and y'all, she just did such a fabulous job. So this is our bluebird, one of our bluebirds with their baby. And this is in my book, Vegetables Love Flowers. And Barb did, it's hard for me, I can't get back far enough for y'all to see the whole thing so you can kind of get a gist of it. She asked me when we were looking at frame material for the other project, when I brought this out, she looked at me and said, "Do you trust me?" I said, "Totally and completely." She said, "Let me do this. I think I have something in the back that will work really, really well." And she hit it out of the park, y'all. You can't quite get the effect on Facebook, but this frame is so similar. This is a birdhouse that Steve built. We have bluebirds in it every year, and this was super special. But here's the super special part about it. These things are no longer sitting in my drawer. They're hanging on the wall in our house, and they just make us smile and make us happy. So me rekindling this relationship with a local business, totally felt confident leaving my items with her, feeling that I was going to get them back and that there weren't going to be any mix-ups. Just totally made me want to just help her and help all local businesses. But here's the bottom line, and then we're going to walk outside. As a small business owner, if we don't patronize other small businesses and talk about it publicly, why would other people embrace us? Because let me tell you something. If you're selling at a farmer's market, it is not easy. It is far easier for people to go to the supermarket than it is to go to a farmer's market. Parking usually stinks. It's hot. It's humid. And I mean, we know all the benefits, but we people most often never take that step to go that extra mile because they don't know about it. And until we start talking about all the benefits of local, not just our local, I mean, how beneficial would that be to your business for you to like what I've done with Barb? I've told Barb, I'll be an influencer for you. Let's start talking about your stuff. And this thing that I want to work with her after the first of the year is really incredible and beautiful. And it's like me highlighting her makes people look at me like maybe she's an all right on the top of things girl, right? I mean, you don't do it for that reason, but it markets you when you're marketing somebody else and benefiting them. Y'all, when we lead by example, it really changes things. People are watching you. You just don't even realize it. So Barb Hunt is my hero this week over what she's doing. And she's having some tough times now. You know, businesses are really, the flower farmers, we have so much demand right now. We're pulling our hair out trying to meet the demand. Not all businesses are suffering that way. They're on the other end of the pendulum. They're running out of money. They have no more savings left. There's just a lot of challenges, and all we can do to help and highlight those people, because they don't all know everything that we know about social media. It's so helpful. So I'm going to zip my coat up and take y'all outside to have a look at the Cool Flower Garden. Totally pumped about cold weather is here. I just recorded a podcast early this morning that's coming out Christmas morning. It's cool season gardening. Why are we so afraid? And going through it and talking made me so excited for Cool Flowers all over again. Just reminded myself of the benefits and just all of the goodness of that. So if you have any questions about local shopping or Cool Flowers, post them here. And when I come back, well, actually, I think I'll take this tripod out there with me. We're going to leave Tucker inside, and let's go outside and take a look. Let me turn y'all around here. So, I had to change my live time from Fridays at 6 to now because guess what? It's dark at 6. And I'm up at the warehouse. Fridays are brainstorm days for Suzanne and I. So I had to change it. So the light is not so bad this time of day here. And I'm gonna, I'll set you up guys up here and just kind of give you an overview and I'm gonna mention some of these things that I get questions about all day long about Cool Flowers. So let me just put this baby down. I wonder if I can, all right, that isn't gonna work. All right, so what we're looking at here is my Cool Flower garden. I do have a few things planted out back in another garden, but this is the primary garden. It's about a third or between a third and a half of what my new cutting garden size is, which is actually an eighth of an acre, which is 5,500 square feet. And so because I succession plant, meaning, I chop it all up in a couple of different sections so that I'll have room to plant my spring stuff, have room to plant summer, and to go on from there. I don't know if you saw my Instagram post this morning and my Facebook post. It was an image of those giant poppy pods right there, totally covered in frost. I'm going to take you off here so we can walk over here and look. And just look how happy and healthy they look. People are so afraid of frost, just like I used to be, y'all, or frostiness on our plants. These were total little icicles this morning, and they are totally and completely happy now. So what you're looking at here is all of the beds that were transplanted have Bio 360. That is that black film you see right there. The leaves have kind of blown over it some. That is a totally biodegradable film. It's made out of a corn byproduct, and it works with all the benefits just like plastic does. However, it does not need to be lifted. We actually incorporate that into the bed, whether that means that we cut the plants off at ground level, put a little compost down, or actually put another piece of film down if that one's broken up, typically, because it'll break down after about 6 to 9 months. But what I'm trying to say is the Bio 360 will break down, whether you incorporate it into the soil by tilling, or if you put compost on top of it and plant through it again, that will continue to break down. The benefit of this is pretty phenomenal, because like over here, we have done whole weeding. I'm just looking for see if I can't find some weedy spots. So this is feverfew actually here. But what happens, so here's a few weeds. Let me get on the side of the shade. So, sorry y'all, see these little weeds here? So we have whole weeded. So what would happen if this film wasn't down here is this little weed, this whole area would be covered in those weeds if we didn't keep them weeded. But we don't have to, because the biodegradable film actually blocks the light that the weed seeds need to actually germinate into a small weed. So I just can't even tell you. There's no question in my mind that I would have never scaled up my farm during all these years of production had it not been for this film. And so the biodegradable film is down. We only use the film, had to catch my thoughts, y'all. We use the film for transplanted beds. When we direct seed, and the plant that you're planting is what tells you whether or not you're going to transplant it or direct seed it, like this is. These are the giant poppy pods, and these were direct seeded in October. They have not been thinned yet. A lot of them will be thinned out. We thin typically in March. But this is open soil. Some of the leaves have blown in here. And this bed, as well as other direct seeded beds, has been hoed with the garden hoe that, I'd marry that garden hoe if I had to. The garden hoe, you can see that on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. Just search the products for HOE, hoe, and there's I hope there's a video. We got a new website yesterday, y'all, and it's not complete yet, but I don't know if the videos are back yet or not. But the garden hoe is run through this bed just in that area between where the rows are about every 10 days, from about 10 days after the seeds are sown until it gets cold. We not only exhaust all the weed seeds that are on the surface, but once it gets cold, things really slow down growing. So this bed has no film. You can see that there's leaves in our pathways. We use leaves for mulch, and that mulch is about 10 to 12 inches deep. It's not for the faint at heart. It takes about 15 bags of leaves per row, depending on how dense the bags are. But we do not purposely put them up on our beds. There's a lot of problem with large leaves using that as mulch, but it's just a better practice for us to use the film or direct seeded beds, and we use the leaves in the pathway, and that prevents growth. But let me tell you what else those leaves do. Leaves are garden gold, y'all. Do you know how many creatures are benefited by this leaf litter? This is where lightning bug babies live. This is where all of those good beneficial bugs live that eat all the other bad bugs. And the number one question I get when people are looking at this is, my goodness, don't you have a lot of slug problem? And I will tell you, we have like 0 slug damage. And it's not because slugs aren't here in our region. We have slugs in our shade garden, but there are so many predators of slugs that either live in this leaf litter or visit it. Birds just particularly love it. And this, we do not, as you can see, we do not mulch or chop these. We literally, see there's our pile of bags, what's left of it. We literally just drag the bags over here and dump them. Walking on this stuff all next spring and early summer just pulverizes it. And there's just really no need to do that. And there's really no time to do that. So let's walk over here and look. Statice is one of the cool flowers that, has been added since my book, Cool Flowers, came out gosh, it's been 6 years ago, y'all. And so we were experimenting with it, and we find that Status is super winter hardy here in zone 8A, 7B. And this year, this whole bed is Status, because we're now selling the seeds in the solid colors. There's such a need for that, particularly if you're bouquet making, and we needed imagery. So we have got a lot of Status planted here. So you can see that it's in the film. And you can see these are little weeds here. See, Bobo whole weeded last week. They're the last week of the year of farm work. And so one of the things that I'm trying to resist this year is putting up our row covers too early. I do have a new podcast just coming out. I just recorded it this morning. That's coming out Saturday morning. And I'm talking a little bit about why we shouldn't be so afraid of the cold and just some of the highlights of growing cool season stuff. And there's also a row cover podcast from last week. So if you're not listening to my podcast, which they do now show up on Facebook, check those out. And one of the things you can see that some of our covers are half up and half down. I do not grow any cool flowers that are not winter hardy in my zone. Okay, I'll say that again. I don't grow any cool flower varieties in my field that are not winter hardy. I don't fall plant any cool flowers that are not winter hardy in my zone, meaning I don't have to take heroic steps. Row cover is just for added benefit. And so the ones that you see, like the end of that bed down there, is kind of up. Over there, it's up, and it's up over there. That is because those are flowers that are on the edge. Those are flowers that if we get really cold, sometimes they sustain frost damage. And I just decided, why would I even let that happen, right? Unfortunately, they should have all been planted in the same bed, but that doesn't always happen. That's calendula down there, which is always iffy for us. And over here is Ami Magus and Billy Balls, which is Craspedia. And over there are two new crops for us from several years ago. I used to grow them. One of them is, and you'll find all the seeds on our website, is the annual Baby's Breath Covent, and that heirloom carnation. And I wasn't going to cover them. I was just going to let them go. But that night we had down in the mid-20s a few days ago, did burn them a little bit. So I thought, why even let that happen? But I am resisting putting up my row covers as long as possible because, not only does a row cover make it dreamier underneath there for plants, but it also is a great place for not only pests, but for disease. And when you encourage your plants to grow more than they should during the winter because it's too warm, that just kind of encourages those things to come along too. So I just am really trying to hold off putting my row covers up until we absolutely need them to improve the overall health of my plants. And I don't know if y'all know this, and it is in cool flowers. It's so funny that people seem so surprised. I'm going to walk on this other side so that I can pull these leaves back. The leaves have kind of piled up. It looks like Bobo stopped weeding right here for some reason, and the leaves kind of got piled over here. This is my Lisianthus bed. Lisianthus is a cool flower. And I'm just pulling these back. And in fact, I am told that they will winter over even in colder regions, and it's actually wet feet that take them out. So this is another direct seeded bed. That's Saponaria, bachelor buttons down there. So that's kind of what's going on here in the cool flower region. So The other thing, this is our cool season cover crop. That's crimson clover, and then there's winter rye. That's a summer leftover. That tall stuff there is summer hemp or sun hemp that we did not take out. We left it, and all of that over there is crimson clover. And that's where the no-till beds are that we started several years ago. This area of my garden is, we do practice conventional, the tractor tills it and makes the bed. And then over here, we'll walk over here and have a look. This is, let me walk up here to the head. I think you can see the bumps of where the beds are. So, can't really tell right here, but over here it's a little bit easier. You can see there is one pathway that still has landscape fabric on it, and that will be ripped out and leaves will go in there. But anyway, these are permanent beds, and we just sowed crimson clover all over. And my plan in the spring, this is where summer, the first warm season tender annual beds will be planted. The zinnias and coxcomb and ageratum and all that stuff. So I have a Stihl, that's a brand name, Stihl hedge trimmer that has an arm on it so I can stand upright. And I am literally going to just mow this stuff off right at ground level, and it'll just drop, and then we're going to plant into it. We'll see how that goes. No clue how that's going to work, but it's got to be, we're just trying different stuff. And so we're really hoping that our weed pressure is really low over here. We've had a couple of years of controlling weeds, and I do run the walk behind very shallowly over here, like when I planted this clover. So we'll see how it goes. All right, friends, so let's see if anybody's got questions. I saw a couple come across here. And hello, everybody. We got lots of folks, lots of students on here. We just love it when, if you are a student of any of our online courses, we love it when you comment with the sunflower emoji. That just identifies you to everybody, to me and to everybody else, that you're one of our students. And just hello, everybody from everywhere. We got folks from all over. Yes, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Yeah, Yvonne, hometown's my favorite too, one of mine. Just love what they stand for and what they're doing, right? So Chris, she's asking about the no-till beds. So we're going to see when spring comes how that's all going to go, right? And I see Rhonda is watching. What happens if you, so here's a good question. What happens if you don't thin out your poppies? Well, those are the giant poppy pods over there, and they're enormous plants. And in reality, I do not thin Iceland poppies. Right? Those are champagne bubbles. They're tiny little plants, and they really do well crowded. And I made the mistake the first year I grew the giant poppy pods, and you will find we do still have some of those seeds, I believe, on our website, that the plants are enormous. I mean, they're just huge. So not thin, they just get more, it's just a problem. They don't get enough food, water, and light for each plant to grow and thrive, and they fall victim to disease and problems. So we thin them. And Kelly says, baby lightning bug nymphs overwinter in leaves and eat slugs. I mean, people just don't want to believe me when I tell them we just really don't have any slug issues. I mean, with the film and the leaves, you would think, but we have spent so many years in restoring the natural order of our farm, y'all. I mean, it's all about this native border that surrounds our farm, and we don't use any pesticides, organic or otherwise. And my book, Vegetables Love Flowers, which is really a 3-season cutting garden book, the back section is all about the way that I garden and farm and how I handle things. But the reality is that, a very small percentage of the pests or insects in the world actually cause damage. The rest of them have a job, and that job is to eat somebody else in the food chain. And if we allow them to live in our gardens and not harm them and provide them habitat, you get what I've got. I mean, literally. People, I mean, that's one of the reasons we have so many visitors here. People, back when we were able to do open farms, I don't know we'll ever be able to do that again in this day and age. But anyway, people just can't believe what we're doing. And y'all, I'm not doing heroic stuff. I'm not a tree hugger. I just stopped using chemicals, planted my garden, and tried to give nature a hand instead of fussing with it. So, and that's the honest to goodness truth. Shannon, do you have an affiliate program? We do not. Ashley says, what's your opinion using rocks in place of sandbags to hold down the row cover? We have lots of free rocks. Well, I can tell you this, Ashley, from firsthand experience. Before I knew about sandbags, which was probably for about 5 years, I used rocks. And we actually had to bring rocks home from our family up in Harrisonburg, like Glendore Farms, which is a beef producing cousin of ours. You can see, you've seen them on our feed before. We would go up to there to visit and bring home truckloads of big rocks. Not only are they more predisposed to ripping the row cover because they get moved because they aren't heavy enough. You really need a 15-pound weight. And rocks vary so much. And picking them up and moving them is a ton more work. I mean, I'm old. Bending all the way down to the ground to pick something up, or reaching over and picking up that bag that's standing up right there, is like night and day difference. So surely in the beginning you can, but the big problem is you need to weigh a rock. You need a 15-pound weight, because what happens if they're not heavy enough, when the wind comes, it lifts and then the rock rips your row cover. So there you go. Jaden, so you don't put leaves in your beds, only walkways. Can you put leaves in your beds? Can you put leaves in your bed? Is it or is it not beneficial? So on the occasion that we pick up bags of leaves that somebody has used their mower to collect them and chopped them up, so they're small and pulverized, in little pieces, those would be a candidate to be put in the bed for whatever reason. And the reason you don't want to use unchopped leaves is the leaves are kind of big, and it's easy for them to get matted by the wind blowing them and then rain, and it will just like lay over top of a young plant or a baby seedling and just snuff it out, right? So you want to have it small enough. And you know what? One of the things, what was I just listening to? Oh, a podcast that's coming out next week that I was working on this morning, to rest and restore. For your business. It's like there are so many rabbit holes, y'all, that you can go down as a flower farmer, but you can't do that if you want to be successful, because there's 100 other rabbit holes you could fall in about other things you need to be doing, and that's one of them. Yes, it would be a perfect world if I could chip these leaves up, pulverize them. There is no manpower and there is no time to do that. We have found that bringing them home and dumping them works really, really well. And on that occasion that we do get chopped up ones, yes, you could put them in your bed. Leaf litter is like, y'all, just walk in a forest. Reach down and push the leaves back and look at the centuries of leaf debris and what it's done. It's what makes the best soil on earth, for sure. What's a good substitute for rock phosphate powder? Jessica asks. So there really is not there's really not that I'm aware of. And I can tell you this from a firsthand discussion I actually had with Elliot Coleman, who is the one that was his recipe. That's the book that taught me how to farm, or the whole farming system. And he was speaking at a show where I was speaking, and he and I talked about the fact that green sand and rock phosphate powder, which for decades, up until the last decade, where more and more general purpose fertilizers are coming out and people stop buying the original organic fertilizers, which is things like rock phosphate and bone meal and blood meal and cotton meal, that they're harder and harder to get. And we, in fact, thought that green sand was no longer going to be available. But in fact, it is. You can find rock phosphate powder typically from farm supply stores. And almost always you have to buy a 50-pound bag. But let me just tell you that if you keep that 50-pound bag in your garage, it will last you for the rest of your life. And most of us, unless you live in a farm community, most of us have to ship that stuff in. And yes, I know how much it costs to ship because I pay a shipping bill every single day. And what we learned over the years was if you don't have access to farm stores, farm supply stores that have like organic dry fertilizer in 50-pound bags, bone meal, rock phosphate, green sand, just the stuff that farmers use, is to do a once a year order, because here's the tip of the day. When you're doing shipping, I never knew this. I would call up and order, a couple of bags of general purpose organic dry fertilizer. I'd get my rock phosphate and green sand, and it would be like 150 pounds of stuff. And I mean, I'd pay a ridiculous $90 shipping. But what are you going to do? You can't get anywhere else. It's just the cost of doing business, right? Well, what I didn't know is that when you order 200 pounds, when you hit 200 pounds on an order, you can say to whoever you're ordering from, do y'all do pallet shipping? And if they say, oh yeah, sure, we ship pallets every day. What happens is to ship a pallet with 4 bags cost about the same as 30 bags, because there's a minimum charge. And it was the same price to ship me a pallet with however many bags I wanted or could afford to buy or store, for the same price as it was to ship me 3 50-pound bags. And so I'm saying to you, flower farmers, getting together and having it all shipped to one place is really beneficial. But that is what farmers do. I never knew that. Nobody ever told me that. Farmers don't go down to the big box store. They go to farm supply store. And where I am, there are none. We don't even have a Southern States hardly anymore, and they don't even really sell. They sell gardener stuff now. So anyway, I'll stop talking about that. Yes, so I want to say to everybody, Merry Christmas to everybody before I forget to say that. Trish, hey Lisa, I know you have talked about bed prep multiple times, but I am still confused about whether I should have my till beds covered now and no plants in it for protection before planting my spring cool flowers. So if you prepared beds in the fall for your very early spring planting of cool flowers, yes, you definitely need to cover those beds with something to prevent winter weeds from growing. I mean, chickweed, henbit, those are all very aggressive weeds that grow a lot in the winter. Whether you do that with a silage tarp, we, for our fall, very early spring planted beds, we'd cover them in the Bio 360. And yes, it just sits out here all winter and does beautifully. We walk out here in February. If it's snowy, we push the snow off the beds and plant. Or you can use mulch, or you can use a silage tarp. So yes, you definitely need to prevent that bed from having the ability to grow winter weeds. Oh, Kelly, Doug Tallamy. Doug Tallamy is like my hero. He changed my farming life with his book, Bringing Nature Home. I got to have dinner with Doug Tallamy once. He and I were speaking at the same place. Actually, it was the first time I ever ate Thai food and sat next to him, and he introduced me to Thai food. Anyway, Doug Tallamy, highly recommend his books. Yes, Betsy, fill the bags with rocks. That's what gravel is actually what's in our bags, because I don't have the soil to spare, right? All right, friends, I got to get off here. I've got people working in my house. How do you feel about pine shats in the garden? We use pine straw. You don't want to put anything in there that'll trip or cause turned ankles, but we like it all. Is crushed oyster shells a good fertilizer? I have no idea what they're heavy in. The problem, you would look that up, and would be a great question for your local extension agent. So friends, I wish you the very merriest of Christmases. And we have a week of podcasts coming out for you. So check out our new website, even though we still got some working through some little hiccups, but we're thrilled with it and just so happy for everybody to have a look at it. And our learning center, it's just getting better and better, and we're excited for everything. And all right, folks, I'm going to jump off of here, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys before the new year, because I'll see you next week. Even though we have closed the Gardener's Workshop business office next week, today's the last day until we come back on the 2nd, but I'll still be doing my lives, and we have behind-the-scenes tech people working, but we're giving our crew time to spend with their family and enjoy the reason for the season, y'all. All right, folks. Till we meet again. Ciao. Merry Christmas.